Welcome to the 5th episode of our new podcast in Las Vegas. We're still looking for names, guys, so please comment if you have a name that we could use. But today we've got a very special guest, a man who's got a incredible story, very great story. He's an expert in digital ads, Google, Facebook. He's a man of great passion, so he's been doing the ads for the last over 12 years. Sergio, very nice to welcome you to this podcast.
Thank you, Marcin.
Great to have you, man.
It's awesome, man.
Thank you for your time.
I've never done a podcast in Porsche.
Porsche or Porsche?
It's Porsche.
It's Porsche, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, I went to I was gonna run a contract here for the dealer for Porsche. Okay. And I come in and like, oh, Porsche is great, and Porsche, like they say it here, right? And they would look at me funny, and I'm like, why are you looking at me funny? And like, well, if you're gonna represent this brand and run digital marketing for us, you gotta know that it's Porsche, not Porsche. And I'm like, okay. So it's like they have their brand identity is extremely important to them, extremely important. So you cannot say Porsche, it's Porsche.
Right. People confuse that a lot because in Europe they say Porsche. I would say Porsche in Europe, but when I came to the UK, they started saying Porsche. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna say Porsche now. Anyway, Sergio, please tell us where you're from and what do you do exactly with the paid ads, because that's very interesting.
Okay, so I came to the States 21 years ago. I am originally from northern Mexico, from a place called Chihuahua. There's a dog breed called Chihuahua. That is what Chihuahua is famous for, but it's actually the name of it means city in the mountains, from the indigenous people that live there, right? Anyways, point being is that Chihuahua is bordered with Texas and New Mexico, and I've always been entrepreneurial. I was doing my business degree in the university, and I wasn't paying attention to much of my classes. I was already trading online stocks and all that hoopla in the market back in the day when it was just coming into the internet, right? All the internet boom. I was very young. I was very brazen. I made a lot of money. I made like $500,000 when I was close to 19.
And you were still in Mexico?
I was still in Mexico, and I was doing it online, and I thought that I was the cream of the crop.
So that's what it sort of taught you to be kind of humble?
Absolutely, because I lost it all after a couple of years.
Right.
You get too rash. Back then it was the internet boom. It was a market like it was right now. Anything you touch would be going up consistently. Mm-hmm. So then I lost it all.
Was it the .com boom?
It was the .com boom back in the early 2000s. And then all of a sudden everything went down. Like nothing was going up. And from having a lot of money in the bank, I lost it all. And
what sort of stocks did you invest into?
Back then, every day Cisco would go up, AOL would be the big thing that doesn't even exist now. AMD, Intel, Microsoft was hot back then. So everything was insane at the time.
Mm-hmm. And you said that you lost everything?
I lost it all. I was left with $5,000.
How come can you go from like $500,000 to 5,000 by betting on stocks, or like being what you have to, like, I mean, you cannot spend $500,000 you know, I mean, you can of course, but you were trading, so I would assume there's some sort of knowledge.
There's a thing called leverage. So make so much money, you can actually bet it, get margin, and get double the money. And you make a couple of mistakes, and you can get completely wiped out. Completely.
So you leveraged a lot.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and by using the leverage, which can either make you or kill you, it actually killed all your money.
Exactly.
So what did you decide to do then? Because you were still in Chihuahua?
Correct.
You have your family there? You have your friends there?
My family and my friends were there, but at the time my mother was very sick, and she died a few months later, so we were in it was like a very dark time for me. I had lost it all. I had lost my mom. I was around 22, 21, totally depressed, didn't want to do anything. The only thing that I would do was go and teach spinning classes.
Spinning classes?
Spinning classes, yeah.
Where did you pick it up?
That I picked up, there was a gym close to my house, and it was a thing back then. It started to get into, before Peloton or anything like that, it was called spinning.
Mm-hmm.
So it was getting very, it started to get popular at the time. And I just went to the gym, took a class, fell in love with it, and then I started to teach. And that's what I would do, because I didn't want to touch anything that had to do with anything business.
Mm-hmm.
So because I was making so much money, if I would take a job, I would make like pesos instead of dollars. And
so you've kind of figured out the system very, very young, I would say.
A little bit, yeah. I would never touch anything else than entrepreneurship. Was
there anything connected remotely to marketing at that point?
Not at all. Nothing.
Okay, so you're in Chihuahua, you're 22.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in your shoes right now. My mother dies. I don't know your story with all the other family, but you decided to go to the US. Was it by some sort of how do you do it? You just fly and then you kind of start the process, the immigration process?
So books. I started reading books, right?
Okay.
Again, because that's major changes in my life, and I guess in anybody's life, comes from reading books. So I started reading books on nothing done real estate. I started reading books on multiple streams of income. Back then was Robert Allen, and then I said, I can rebuild again. I can do something again. Mm-hmm. with entrepreneurship.
Right.
So then I got into my head the idea of doing real estate, and then I started trying to get loans in Mexico, and I would go to the bank and I would get completely rejected because things are very different. We're very different down there. You didn't get loans as easy as you can get like here in the States. And so then, I just decided to, I came to conventions in the States, and I met a couple of people, a couple from Las Vegas that were doing, they did $1 million in a year.
Wow.
So I came over, and I just drove over. We get the visa situation in northern Mexico is very easy. So I just I took my car and I said to my dad, I'm leaving. At the time, I figured out how to make money on online casinos, so I was making some money to sustain for my basic sustenance, and I drove over to the States because it's northern Mexico is just
right.
It's 2 hours.
Do you think it was easier 22 years ago to get to the US than it is now? From the time perspective and the stories that we kept keep hearing.
Absolutely. I think it depends. The immigration situation and the way things are is very different. Like northern Mexico, well, first of all, I come from a privileged family, right? My dad is a surgeon.
Okay.
We could, I'm educated. I know a couple more languages other than Spanish, and you can I think that
what other languages can you?
I can speak a little French.
Vale.
So anyways, point being was that since when people are privileged, educated, and have resources, they're very differently seen by the immigration system.
Okay.
And then northern Mexico supports the border economies, right? So they give visas out like it's nothing, especially if they know that you have assets and you have. So it's never a problem for when you're from northern Mexico to cross. Southern Mexico gets different requirements for visas. Right?
Okay.
So you even get a card that you can use and reuse that's valid for 10 years.
Does it still apply?
Yeah, it still applies.
So you moved to the US. Where did you move?
To Las Vegas?
Right away to Vegas.
To Las Vegas, yeah.
Okay.
Right away.
Why was it Vegas because of the casinos?
No, I had come to several courses here when I was learning the stock market and when I was learning real estate. And the people that were my first mentors that I came to learn from were here in Vegas.
Right.
It was just a spur of the moment thing. It's just one of those things that you feel destined.
Coincidence.
Not coincidence, like destined. Like I knew I had to be here.
Okay, yeah, got you. And you said that you took some, you started studying here.
Okay, yeah, that was way later. The whole, if you wanna, let's make it short. The real estate thing, I started doing real estate, learned a lot of things, learned communication skills from my mentor.
Yeah, what did you learn from real estate? Because it's super hot right now.
It was something like that at the time. It was just starting to get on an uptrend back in 2003, all the way to 2008 when there was a big crash.
Correct.
So some of the things that I learned about real estate was the people aspect of things. To land real estate deals, you have to earn people's trust, right? So to get distressed properties, you're dealing with people that are under a lot of distress. At the time, there were not that many people competing for their attention. Right now, like somebody goes under distress, they get 50 calls a day from investors, or they get letters. At the time, they would get 1 or 2 letters. So I learned how to negotiate with people that are in dire situations, and I also I learned to get investors and let's go over here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, this should be nice and quiet.
I've not been here, so one of the things that I love about the podcast is that I can actually get to know Vegas more, because I work like yourself. I work a lot, so to me, and then the nature of the work that I'm doing, digital stuff, doesn't require me to be places. So that's a great kind of go away from whatever I'm doing. But you said that you learned how to get investors.
Yeah.
What sort of investors? For your business deals, or for the real estate?
For the real estate. So okay. I was triangulating deals from getting investors from Mexico, because I told you I'm lucky to come from a privileged family, so we knew a lot of people with money, so I would get money from back there and then bring it up to the States and make it work in deals. And that happened for about 5 years, and after that there was a crash. And
2008,
same pattern as 10 years before, right? Boom and crash, boom and crash. So for me, that left me again. I went into despondency for a while.
You lost all the money again?
Again, yeah.
Again, wow.
Yeah,
just goes to show, how resilient you need to be in life.
I made my investors whole. That I was able to, but I was back to zero. I was back to the point where I had to ask my dad for $200 because I was going hungry, literally. like send me $200. And I had to go to the bottom, and I started waiting tables. I had to support myself somehow. So I started waiting tables for a while in a restaurant called Lindo, Michoacan. And that was 2-3 years. And I was also doing a little bit of poker on the side. I learned back then, it was when the whole poker boom was starting. And I would go to the casinos and extract $100-200 to help me in with my income, right? It isn't always that rosy, but I could help myself. And then in 2008, a friend that was in the internet marketing space told me to go and learn WordPress. So I went and learned WordPress, and I started building sites. And then this degree came up from UNLV. They have many degrees, and I went to study web design.
Right.
I've always been good at computers, but back in the day when I was in college, they told me that I should have gotten a computer degree, right? That was my vocational analysis. I went to business.
Right.
Because I didn't want to be a nerd, right? At the time, being a nerd was like out of it. You would not get any girls or anything. It's like, no, you don't want to be a nerd. So I wanted to go and be social, so I learned business, so I left computers, but I've always understood and gotten computers. So then being able to understand business, computers, the internet, and then I am a lover of human nature. I study psychology, and I study metaphysics and anything, and evolutionary psychology, anything that has to do with human behavior I love. So for what I do, I think it's the perfect blend of abilities to have to be able to run ads or to run digital campaigns, because as you know, it's not only numbers. You gotta get in the head of the customer.
That's correct.
You gotta get in the head of the business. You gotta understand that, it's costing the business $50 to get a customer, maybe, and they gotta spend 60, right? So you're putting them in the hole, and then with human behavior, you know that this person's gonna get upset and this is not working.
So did you start your own company back then? That was when you started, or you were working for someone else?
My company started 6 or 7 years
okay.
ago, right? I've been freelancing. I was freelancing back then.
And learning the craft?
But I always had a laboratory with my clients, right? Basically what I see in the digital marketing world or agency is that if you have certain skill sets, you can go in and grab the levers of a company in a certain aspect and move them and make things happen for them. But it takes a lot of energy and effort to learn those levers.
Do you think businesses understand how much energy business owners, because at the end of the day they're making that decision. Do you think they're understanding the level of energy it takes to promote a business, to make it to the point where it's marketable, where all the processes are in place? Because that's where the marketing makes the biggest sense. But it doesn't mean that they shouldn't start.
It depends on the business, and it depends on the level of maturity. When you're freelancing, you start getting businesses that are not that experienced, so sometimes they won't understand it. I think more mature businesses do understand it right now, because it's an absolute necessity to have your digital marketing to some level.
So you check when starting, to engage with a business, you check and you learn what sort of level of maturity they have.
I think that's something that you earn your stripes with time, because a business that has maturity will know who they're dealing with, digital marketing wise, right?
Okay. So you prefer to work with those mature businesses?
I mean, you have to earn the right. It's not that you prefer or not. I mean, I would have liked to work with those type of businesses when I started, but you have to earn the experience. You have to earn the stripes. You gotta go through war for smaller businesses first.
So how did you decide to, you're making the decision and the transition from freelancer to starting a business, which is pretty much the same unless you have like, maybe 1 or 2 employees.
Mm-hmm.
But it's different because when you're freelancing, you're more as a like, okay, I become a part here, of the team. But when you go out and you market yourself as a business, you start to get employees, and then it's different. I think it's more difficult, but at the same time, the reward is bigger.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not panacea. And how was the transition? It was just my willingness to serve, man. It's just, you gotta have a vocation.
Yeah, I could sense that. I could sense that because we met. Actually, it's our first meeting. We were on the calls.
Yeah, before we met on Zoom.
And you can sense a lot, right? Not everything, because you need to meet the person, and that's where you get the biggest credibility and trust. But you can do a lot of, like, you can check who the person is. So that's what I thought about you, like very passionate guy and a straight shooter.
Absolutely, man. Because look, unfortunately our world, there's not a regulating agency for digital marketing. There's no such a thing. So there's a lot of people that come into this world from a course that says build up digital marketing agency,
right?
And go on prospect people that'll pay you $5,000.
Yeah, exactly. It's bullshit.
Correct. And then they go and do it successfully because they teach them how to promote themselves correctly, right?
But they're not able to deliver.
They're not able to deliver.
They don't know. They don't have enough experience to kind of even deal with the mature businesses, as you said.
Exactly. And it's not about. Then it doesn't become about service. It's about you supplying money to my agency. You see how that equation does not make sense?
Yeah.
Because everything in business or in life is about solving others' problems. So it's about the person's problem, not about me getting paid. Not everything's rosy. So sometimes when you're not hitting the KPIs, I don't even send an invoice. It's just
wow.
It's just not right. Because you're hired to perform.
Amen.
And the point where you get to that maturity level to be able to bring in employees, in my sense as a freelancer, is to not be in a necessity level. So before I started expanding my company, I said like the first goal that I made was to have in the bank at least 12 months of expenses.
Reserves
of my expenses.
Right.
So then I know that if
whatever happens,
everything happens, I have a year to recuperate myself.
Right.
When I got to that point, it was very easy. And things just starting rolling. And then I know I can, because it's all about economics, right? So if it costs you $1,000, if you're charging $1,000 for a retainer, and it costs you $500 in employee cost to figure that out,
mm-hmm.
You have to make it work, right? It doesn't make sense to spend $1,200 to make $1,000. So you got to figure out the math in that way, and how much you're willing to give up for the effort of putting somebody else, and the liabilities that entails. Because right now, Marcin, I have my operations manager is down probably with a crazy virus. We don't know yet, and that's a week that I have to go, apart from my own responsibility, I have to go and take up on his.
Yeah.
Right. And only that wanting to serve is going to get you through that, because I'm not gonna sleep more than 4 hours for probably the next 5 days, and I don't care because I'm serving, right?
So
but you gotta see it in that way. You gotta freaking.
So number one, you know that you're serving.
Yeah.
And whatever happens, you're not reaching the KPIs. You know that you're not gonna screw your customer, and you're not gonna send the invoice, which is a great trait and a great sort of attribute of any professional. Let me tell you a story. So I hired a guy 2 years ago. No, I didn't even hire him. I gave him the recruitment test. He didn't pass that test, but he charged me just for like few hours that he spent on that test. When in fact he was, fighting for my business, to get our business. And so that's one sort of type of people, and you know that you're not gonna deal with them. It's kind of like it's done. And then recently I had an agency as well that we're working with, and they're also like getting us developers, people that help, basically resources. And then their guy wasn't the best fit, and the guy said, okay, you know what, we're not gonna send the invoice, exactly like you. We're not sending an invoice. We wanna solve your problem. And then look, I mean, I have money in the bank, I'll pay you when you do. But because they screw up, and not screw up, they're experimenting. They have my trust right now, even bigger than before, even though they didn't solve the problem.
Because that's life, man. Nothing ever works out the way you think.
Yeah.
And when it does, it's great.
I like those houses. It's kind of European style, kind of.
Yeah. These are nice. The 3-floor houses.
Yeah, I like that. It's a cool little residential. So what's your company called right now? Is it I Love Google Ads?
Our holding company, our original company is called Vegas Video and Web. Because I've done it all. I've done video, I've done web, and then now it's the latest iteration is I Love Google Ads. And that was because I had to take a stance on something. 2 years ago, Google Ads was very, very hot, right? The ads in the platforms go in different cycles. So Google Ads at the time was very, very hot because everything was Facebook. So Google was giving a lot more leniency. And I do Google, I do Facebook. And my job is to figure out the freaking puzzle, right? But following mentors and following you gotta take a stance. So we took the brand I Love Google Ads. But still, people ask, you come in with ads and you solve a problem, then they need a website, then they need a web app, then they need okay, so let's do retargeting on Facebook. So we still do that, but now like the emphasis is Google and Facebook ads. The other parts we either outsource or we project manage very, very well. Right.
Because you have the trust, so once the customer comes into your doors, they know that you're gonna do your bit very well, and then they trust you that you're gonna bring people that are gonna do their bits very well, and those customers, they're not able to fulfill those other requirements.
Correct, because business people really don't care. I mean, they're giving out $1 expecting to make $2.
Amen.
Whatever your name is, they don't care. If you gain the trust, then because people cannot go and educate themselves into all these fields, into web design and media buying and graphic design and branding and social media strategy. Nobody has the time to do all those things.
Yeah.
And before there could be one guy that could do all those things. Now everyone, it's become like a doctor. Like, you gotta have your doctor for social media.
I like that analogy.
You gotta have your doctor for media buying. You gotta have your doctor for design. You gotta have your doctor for branding. Now it's conversion rate optimization. The CRO, the big word now is gonna be CRO.
Conversion rate optimization.
Yeah, CRO is gonna be like, if somebody is listening to this right now, go into CRO, because that's the thing that's gonna be the next big thing in digital marketing.
Conversion rate optimization. So
Correct.
taking what's existing, not setting up, but taking what's existing and making it more efficient.
Yeah, let's say like in the shopping cart, you change, CRO goes from like changing the color of a button in the shopping cart to adding 100% guarantee, to changing, if you change a product, then the color of the product changes and the price changes, and there's very little nuances on the on the cart pages that can improve a company 1 to 2%, and that 1 to 2% conversion rate can mean millions of dollars. I've seen it happen in our star client right now. We don't run their CRO, but we give recommendations. And when we started last year, their average cart value was like $60, and now they're like at 110. So imagine when your average cart value is double your actual money coming in. That's a game changer, and it's a dream to run ads for something like that, because you know you have more room to go get more customers at scale, because that's what ad buying is, going to get customers at scale. So CRO goes very, very hand in hand with ad buying, and it takes its own level of testing, it takes its own level of observation, of human intelligence, of putting yourself in the customer's viewpoint. It's gonna be a very, very hot field, and you're geared up to be in that field, or you probably already do, because the UX.
We work with you know, digital agencies that actually do similar thing that you do. So you know, paid ads, Google ads, Facebook ads, and we're gonna be working with you. I mean, I can smell that here. We're gonna be working together, and since we're kind of, you know, living in the same city right now, and it makes it even easier. So I wanna ask you now, what are the problems working with businesses? I was talking to you before we jumped on the recording here. We were discussing like the businesses, they don't have, you know, processes good enough to handle the leads very often. What other pitfalls do you see with businesses that they could prepare before they come to, you know, to you, for example?
Oh well, man, that's a very loaded question, because there's no one answer for this. It's super loaded. A lot of businesses don't know what they don't know. So until you start creating that problem for them, they know what to do. I don't know. Let's take, for example, your the beauty client. Right now, we're doing a very big beauty client, and problems that we're running into is we're doing lead generation for little stores, right? So they need 4 leads a day, which is simple enough to do in our field, but it's not scalable enough to get them 4 leads a day. The market forces won't get you 4 leads a day. Maybe they'll get you 8, and then the next day it's 0. So they freak out. So one of the things is to manage expectations, to tell them, look, this is going to be an average of so and so.
So a pro can actually foresee the next steps in order to manage the expectation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one thing is to be able to see.
I like that. That's a beautiful view, by the way.
Yeah. The clouds are crazy beautiful.
Which is good as well, because it's at least we were not getting a lot of sun on the cameras, kind of thing. Last time we had like problems. I told you that the batteries, when they were kind of cooking, and that's the first time we're doing, you know, open roof. And you know what? I think it's gonna be beautiful.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
So anyways, so coming to that, what problems? I think the problem that has to be solved is client expectations, right? Tell from your experience, from our experience as digital marketers, we can pretty much foretell what an action is going to create for that business, right? So let's say you're gonna set up a campaign for a beauty store in New York. but now you know that the winter is coming and people don't go out in the winter. So tell them we're gonna turn off ads, right? Try to look 2 steps ahead, because most businesses are not a G that have a lot of things running or a big pendulum of different departments. Most businesses, they need you. You're ideal. You're what they need to grow. So a lot of the things they don't know, but from your experience, you can probably tell, if I build this type of website, then the users are gonna do this, so they're probably gonna have more customer service calls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you tell them you might need a customer service department or a customer service person, because this
Or live
can
chat,
happen.
chatbot, things like that.
Right. What has really saved me as an agency is I always do the exercise in my mind of looking 2-3 steps ahead. What's around the corner? Because something's gonna change. So if you have that mentality, I think you can keep the communication flow that your client needs and be a little more proactive and preventive instead of reactive to whatever problems they might have.
Amen. Could you, I have 2 last questions actually. Number 1 would be, so who are your clients right now? Like, you don't need to give a specific name. You can tell the sectors, or you can give a specific name, you know. Yeah, I know you have a few superstars that you also told me about.
Okay, so right now where we're really shining, we have an e-commerce client. I can totally mention them. They're called g-site.com, and they created this little device that you put in your actual weapon, so you can feel your weapon and use your weapon, your firearm, to train. So you put in a little laser bullet in it, and then you put in you turn on an app and a target, and you can shoot at the target, and the app tells you if you're doing it correctly, right? So that went very, 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 very hot last year. We 30x their sales, I can probably
Wow.
say. It was, you know, everything was right. Market forces, people were staying a lot home. The political environment was fantastic for it. You know, there was a lot of upheaval.
So you look at so many variables that go into like the ads. It's not just the technicalities, it's everything from the weather to geopolitics to viruses, pandemics, everything, man.
And a lot of things you flow with. You can't control market forces, right?
Yeah.
You see you observe market forces and you adapt to them. I see it like big waves. So you're a surfer and you're experienced in more or less how waves move, but you never know where the wave's gonna come from.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that would be a really good analogy for this. You just gotta ride the waves, see where the wind's coming from, and all that. So that's one of our start clients. We started running Facebook ads, and they started to get a lot of top line revenue. But I knew that market forces were not gonna always be in our favor. You know, there's always a curve of diminishing returns. When a business goes exponential, that's the next thing where, I mean, yeah, you won and you're the superstar, but then they hired another 30 people and you're responsible for keeping that top line revenue that's gonna keep those people hired.
Right.
But top line revenue is not always going exponential.
Yeah.
So being preventive 3 or 4 months ago, I told them, look guys, we gotta look for other sources of more stable revenue, right? So we implemented Klaviyo. I was following they had not done any email, and they had 40,000 people with that had bought the product that wanted email from them. And as you know, probably average from email is $1 to $2 per person a month that you can make out of email. So I told them, look guys, we can bring in $50,000 of good of stable revenue,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't depend on market forces and Facebook ads. And guess what? Our Facebook ads crashed 2 months ago, and we're like a screeching halt. 0 sales from Facebook ads.
So your role is also a strategist.
As much as you can, right? And so now the Facebook ads are back up. It's also a juggling game. It's an art, it's a science. There's a lot of factors to doing this, and you know it, Marcin. You know this. But it's good for people to have a more refreshing viewpoint on a reality that it's not they're just gonna go buy a course and they have to and they're gonna get a person that does Facebook ads and a person that does websites, and they're gonna have an agency. I don't think things are that way in any way, shape, or form. There's a craft and there's a learning curve to doing all this stuff. But anyways, going back to the client question. So G-side, we're doing great. We're just, it's always, we're in a balancing act. We're in a place where we're beyond blowing up the company. Now it's how do we make revenue stable, keep those 30 people employed.
Yeah,
it's really cool, man. That's also a cool part. When you see a company that you blow up and you know that your actions created a certain amount of jobs, it brings you so much satisfaction.
Emotionally tied to the success, because you put your hands on it, which is great. So what other sectors who do you work with? The reason I'm asking the question is because I want the listeners and the viewers to maybe identify, because maybe they do have such a need. Maybe they know somebody from such a sector that they could kind of mention even.
So another sector that is the beauty niche, and this is an agency that we were managing a beauty spa here, and I was brought into the mix because I was Vegas local. A good friend of mine that has worked for Ty Lopez, and he's been the CMO of several companies. A total badass. He trusts me, and he brought me. I cannot say his name,
sure,
but he worked with big names like Ty Lopez and other big companies that were in the internet marketing space. And he brought me into the project because that's usually the way I'm brought into projects. I'm like the guy that gets the call.
You're the go-to person.
Yeah. So this medical spa here, they were running Facebook ads and other type of ads, but they were like, oh, our CPA goes up, our cost per lead goes up every so often. And I knew that the weak point in it was doing creative, right? So I took it. I said I'll come in and fill the holes, and I'll be your eye on the ground, and whatever needs to be done. So I started taking on that role, and we started creating. We create hundreds of creatives a week for them, and we run in tandem with our media buyer, and it blew up so well that they started doing it for other spas, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then these spas, they're not as sophisticated. So sometimes, talking about what you're saying, creating challenges, they would get a lot of clients and their room is filled up, or sometimes they wouldn't get any, or you have to just spend $50 or $100. So
are the businesses ready for expansion? Because
you don't know, but they want clients.
Exactly, because a lot of the times they say, oh, they're not bringing me enough clients. What if they bring you too many, and then what if you don't know how to manage the business to expand it? It's a a lot of work to expand a business.
Correct.
And multiply.
But I think this I Love Skin Treatments is becoming the premier lead generator in the field, because we grew up from 0 to 15 stores in a few minutes, and we're figuring it out, man. New York the other day, we had no leads, and then hey, what happened? And then there was a snowstorm. What can you do? And you run your ads into it, and
right.
You cannot preempt. So now we create processes to, New York, we're gonna watch the weather always. So then we turn off the ads when the weather's not favorable or such.
Right. Sergio Chavez, I need to ask you now, so is it the peak of your career? Do you feel it's the peak at the moment right now, or
It's the highest level right now.
Okay.
It'll get higher though.
it'll get higher definitely? Last question that I have is regarding the two sort of lessons that you had with going under, kind of not going under, but you know, going to the point where you kind of built something and then you lost it. What did it teach you from the perspective of time?
To be stable. What I do now is more of a stable business. To be stable and to be diversified.
Okay.
And I think that reflects in my business. Our roster of clients are diversified in different industries. Back in COVID, I saw several of my friends that were just in one niche, and they had a lot of trouble because that niche, let's say restaurants, completely out.
So never rely on one thing.
I don't rely on a niche. I go into whatever. I think I have the worldly knowledge, the big enough worldly knowledge to go into any type of business,
Wow.
understand it, and figure out the marketing puzzle for them from a media buying standpoint or from a digital marketing standpoint. So all those challenges gave me that way of operating right now, and I operate stably. Let's say my company hasn't gone exponential, but we've always been on a stable curve of growth.
Got you.
Very, very stable. If you lose a client, which happens, you know, for whatever reason, because either the business went under, or maybe you could not figure out the puzzle for them, even though you did your best, you're gonna lose a client here and there. But
Yes,
you
sir.
have another 5 or 6 in different industries that you can keep serving. So
Amen. Sergio, thank you very much for your time. Where do people go in order to find you, in order to find your company?
So you just built a little mini site for me that I have on my domain,
Yes, sir.
SergioChavez.com.
We're gonna link that in the description.
You can go there.
So you're the C-Card client.
I am a secret client.
Great to have you.
Yeah, I should have told you something too. Like when I flowed you money right away, brother.
Yeah,
That's-
you're the straight shooter.
I don't know if you noticed that, but yeah, when you flow, you gotta flow straight.
Amen.
That's one, SergioChavez.com or ILoveGoogleAds.com.
We'll link that up as well. Anything
Correct.
else that we should link to?
You can link to my LinkedIn profile.
We'll do.
I'm super active on Facebook, same thing, Facebook.com/Sergio Chavez all together.
Beautiful.
And Instagram, I'm really weak, but it's Sergio Chavez LV.
You don't need to be everywhere, right? People think that you gotta be like on every social media. You don't need to be on every social media.
No, you gotta be a doctor now. So maestro, I'm older.
I like that.
I'm 43, so I'm the
You look
Facebook
so young,
generation.
man. You look like 33.
Yeah, I am 43, so I'm Facebook generation all the way.
Sergio, muchas gracias, señor, por todo y mi placer, sin dudas.
Thank you.
So guys, thank you very much for your time. If you like the podcast, if you like that guy, and then it's hard to not like him, then definitely click subscribe, and we'll be coming up with the next episodes very soon. That's the first one without the roof, so let me know what's the experience. You know, I'm showing you Vegas a little bit. If you're not here, I mean, that guy is showing you, and I have the pleasure to also kind of have a little bit of sightseeing while we're recording. So please leave a comment for the name of the podcast, because we're still thinking about it. So the next episode, the next 2-3 episodes, I want to definitely nail down the name. Please subscribe and stay tuned for the next ones. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you. All the best. Take care.